Royal Artillery Association.
Lancaster's War Memorial contains the names of the military personnel who have given their lives in war, but it does not include the civilians who died. During the Second World War, starvation, disease, bombing, atrocities, and genocide would kill more civilians than combatants. Most of Britain's civilian casualties were inflicted by air raids, which began in 1940, shortly after the fall of France. Hitler had hoped that with France defeated, Britain would think that resistance was futile and make peace, and perhaps even become Germany's new ally. But Churchill made it clear that Britain would stay in the war, even if it meant being invaded by the Wehrmacht.
He could have invaded this country, but something happened. He changed his mind. Something happened. But what we had here, it have walked over here, I should have think.
Actually, we should have lost the war. The Germans were sadly at fault, and not after Dunkirk. If they had invaded, we would have lost it. And I don't think Battle of Britain made that much difference. That if they had put their minds to it, the same as they did in Crete and places like that, 3 or 4 divisions of Paris coming in, it would have. No, I think we could have lost the war very easily.
Fortunately, Hitler was not interested in invading Britain, not in 1940. Firstly, an invasion would be too problematic, considering the strength of the Royal Navy, which was far superior to Germany's small fleet of warships. More importantly, Hitler was worried about the rising strength of Russia. The Nazis had signed their non-aggression pact with Stalin with every intention of breaking it, but in 1940 Hitler realized that the Red Army was being modernized at an alarming rate. He knew that the more time that the Soviet Army had to upgrade its equipment, the harder it would be for Germany to defeat Russia. Consequently, Hitler decided that he would have to conquer the Soviet Union as soon as possible before they became too strong. But Britain would still need to be dealt with, so the Nazi High Command devised a plan. The German Air Force would bomb the country, whilst the Wehrmacht would make false invasion preparations. Hitler believed that this would frighten the British into thinking that they would soon be invaded and quickly surrender. In July 1940, the Luftwaffe began its assault on Britain with the intention of destroying the Royal Air Force and winning air superiority. Although RAF fighters were the main defense against these raids, anti-aircraft guns would also play a role.
We got posted, as I say, down to London, to Bromley in Kent.
Yes.
And to 162, City of London, anti-aircraft, every anti-aircraft unit. So we got off these wagons, these vans, well, you call them wagons, 30 weights, you know, and we got put on guns, which we'd never seen before, to learn. And we stood by on there, and there was reconnaissance planes coming over, German reconnaissance plane, and we weren't allowed to fire at them. We got an explanation about 3 or 4 days after. He said when them planes come over, they didn't want, he said about shells flying, he said Spitfires and Hurricanes, we went and met them and shot them down. And they tried to shoot them down over at Channel if they could, you know, instead of landing on populated areas. This is what they told us, you know. And You sat there with a bloody gun and this bloody German plane going across your reaching to fire it, it's natural, isn't it? Because we're only lads, you know. And so they said, oh no, you're not out to a reconnaissance. And then we had another dude, like, you human being, inquisitive devil. We was in a gun position, and there was a German plane coming towards us, and there was one of our fighters. I don't know if it was a kind of a Spitfire. I could see all these lights out wings on the fighter behind, firing at his plane, you know. And of course, we all got up and stood up in front of him. These red lights, you know, how ignorant you could get. Maybe, you know, spur of the moment, you was mesmerised for the time being, you know. And said, our officer said, if I hadn't known that plane was run out of ammunition, that fighter, he said, you'd all been on a charge. You see, and what the army runs on, if you say you shot yourself in your leg or your arm, or you put you so you couldn't do your job, you was a self-inflicted wound. So you weren't capable of doing your job, so you could have you up for that, you know. If you was on the path of the planes coming in raiding,
Yes.
you're all right. But if you wasn't, you'd do it out of range most of the time.
Yes.
Because people couldn't understand why you see, we say plane's 15,000 feet. Now you got your vertical range, and then you got your slant range. Now it's according to instruments, it's in range, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Because you've got the slant range, you know, which makes it farther. So there was out of range, we couldn't, because we had 30-second fuses on them, you know.
Yes.
We fired at a Messerschmitt once. We fired with radar. Nearly all range we got on our radar was the bombers were flying about 15,000 feet. Now, there's lots of sky up there, it's something, isn't there? We're going. So we put box barrages up. You know, a load of gun sites, well, they call them, they had a master gun site. Now, they plotted this so that all gun sites fired together, like, some fired before others, you know, to get to distance, you know, because some had shorter distances to go, shells, and some had still away. And he said, did we do well? You know, he said to one of the radar lads. He said, oh, it's still flying, he says.
Although the anti-aircraft guns were only a small threat to the Luftwaffe, the RAF managed to inflict heavy losses on the enemy planes. In August, the Germans began bombing the airfields, hoping that this would destroy fighter command. But the Royal Air Force continued to fight back.
I was at Maidstone then. We used to sit and watch him at Maidstone, chasing him about. We used to have lads in trucks ready to go and pick up the people that come down in parachutes or anything like that.
No, this is only hearsay. Down Kent and all them places where these fellas used to bail out, they reckon quite a few got killed, but it was hushed up with locals, you know. Because it's like, you can't say it's true because I don't know.
One night, that was quite an event. We were at the top of the ladies' place and ours. There was one of the standard RAF ablution block with toilets and showers and stuff, made out of only single thickness brick and an asbestos roof. You see, now these girls had been told when they went into it to keep the door shut when they had the light on, and switch the light out when they came away, but they didn't. And we were woken up in the night like somebody like banging a steel rod up against an iron fence, a great roar of guns, and there was rattling on the shed on the Nissen hut. And what had happened is one of these girls had left the door open with the light on, and a Ju-88 had come and come and shot up the ladies' toilet. Why it had done that, I don't know, because they to fly over the hangars and umpteen Lancasters, and they shot up the ladies' toilet. Well, you can imagine what it do. We heard this roar of this aeroplane, and I could tell the Ju-88 the Walter Hafner engines sounded different to any of our engines. You can always tell a Ju-88. And I shared this room with the flight sergeant in charge of the bomb dump. Now, outside the hut, there was a gun emplacement with 2 Lewis guns and stuff. Now, his job, if we had to defend the place, was to go out and uncover these 2 guns. And he showed me how to get the pans out of this covered box, you see. So we both dashed out in our underwear, what we had on. It was summer. It was just before it was coming light. And I got these 2 pans out, and he put them on these guns. And this Ju-88 was still around. But he wasn't supposed to shoot these guns. The RAF regiment was supposed to do, but they didn't turn up. Anyhow, this Ju-88 it left, so we never got the chance to shoot at it, and it dropped some bombs at Binbrook, which was rather an interesting factor, and then it went away. Now we put on some clothes, and there were all kinds of shrieks and things coming from the girls, and we went down onto the road. We went along and up the path, up, and it was just coming light. And we could see that this toilet block had been blasted by this Ju-88. Fortunately, there was nobody in it, but there were girls mulling around. When we got there, there was a young lady officer, WAF officer, with a nightdress on and just a uniform jacket on. And we said, could we help? She says, no. He said, I've got enough trouble with these girls without young men around.
There was a Spitfire from Biggin Hill. One of batteries had fired did knock their wing off one of these planes, one of these German planes. And when he got back, this fighter pilot had claimed it as his. So one of our officers, one of the regiment officers says, well, we're going to go look at wreckage. He says, it should be full of bullet holes, to what the RAF got us. He says, well, we can go out and have a look. So we went down to it. They couldn't find no bullet holes in it.
So it actually been shot down by anti-aircraft then?
Yeah, anti-aircraft. It's just one of them lucky things,
By early September, the German High Command had realised that bombing military targets was not frightening the British into surrender. So, the Luftwaffe was ordered to begin a new strategy. They would now bomb civilians in towns and cities. Hitler hoped that this would demoralise Britain's population to such a degree that Churchill would be voted out of power and replaced by a government that would be more willing to make peace. Initially, the Luftwaffe launched large daylight raids against London, still believing that they could destroy the RAF in a large aerial battle. But on the 15th of September, 2 large German raids on London were beaten back by the Royal Air Force. Following this setback, the Luftwaffe decided to avoid fighting the RAF and instead focused on night attacks on the cities. Very few British fighters could operate at night, so during the Blitz, the anti-aircraft guns were the only protection against the German raids.
Just imagine you're in this room, and there's a blue bottle flying about. You were trying to hit it with that paper. That's how we was with the guns. Because there's that much space up there, That's how I used to tell them. I used to say, get in a room with a blue bottle and try and swipe it with a British swiper. Because they used to say, never couldn't bloody well hit dog, But actually, the proper purpose, I was told, of anti-aircraft was to keep the bloody planes up. we put a badge to keep them up. Because they could come down lower, they could bum them more accurate, couldn't they? Yeah. One night, round Bromley, there was 7 churches erected round Bromley where we was. Got on fire. From where we could see the glow and the sky from docks, London docks, when they all got on fire. You know, he was dropping a lot of incendiaries them days, you know, West juries.
I'd come home one time and I'd gone to Hull, and Hull had had 2 days of bombing, and it was shut down for 2 days, but there wasn't a word said in the UK anywhere about Hull being bombed. And I've learned after the war that they kept it quiet deliberately, but when I went to find my family, I couldn't find them. And they'd all been transported to Huddersfield.
The HMS Sparrow got quite a thumping, I say, from the Heinkel 111s, because once he'd taken Norway in 1940, it was easy for them to come across. And they were crafty because you used to come in very low round the back of Kirkwall. Now you could have hundreds of guns in Scapa, but they couldn't fire because they'd be hitting the town. So they could whistle through at 100 feet high over the drone, do a lot of damage and kill a few, and they used to come in twos, diagonally like that. We always had 2 Seafires warmed up ready, and it got to the stage where very few got back. But we couldn't do anything until they'd done the damage, unfortunately. But it did tail off because they were losing so many Heinkels.
Did you hear about the heavier bombing down south and things?
Oh yes, and I went to Manchester, you see, I was a dancer and I went for lessons to Manchester every Wednesday. And that had been bombed, Manchester had been bombed, and you know, I saw what had been flattened down, but I never seemed to have an air raid when I was there. But I used to travel on the train to Manchester and back again on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
We had evacuees from Manchester. This town was ramjam full. I mean, we were right in the thick of it that way, but we were far enough away from it, you know, in the north of England, and the northwest, not to be affected by actual warfare or anything like that. I mean, there were a few bombs dropped around here, and if you stood on the other railway bridge, if you come over, you could actually see the glow in the sky from Liverpool and Manchester when they were on fire.
1941, I had just started work at a Yort's Mill in Belfast, but on April the 16th, this is always in my mind, I know the exact date, the Germans Blitz Belfast. The mill I worked at went up in flames. The area, North Belfast, where I was born and brought up, was heavily bombed, and I lost a few school chums because a few streets were hit by bombs. They came back again in May and blitzed Belfast again. The Republicans were shown complete sympathy for Germany at that time, until the Germans bombed it. When Belfast was blitzed, it was a different story then. But they often said that by bombing Belfast, the Germans give the British Army 2 more divisions of men, because there was a rush then of volunteers to hit back.
Was that a factor in your decision to join the bomb?
In a way, and a couple of school lads, you saw where their houses had been, didn't we, when we were over to Belfast. It was only a couple of 100 yards from my home. And in my little kinpot young way, I suppose that was in my head, you know. I'll avenge me school pals.
When, say out the morning after an air raid or something, what were the people who'd been bombed like? I mean, did they seem unhappy?
Now, I only got to know him once, and I was talking with him like, and they all bonded together. Yeah, same as a street woman. you get some people that won't talk to someone and won't talk to another. Well, what they did, they all got together. They all bonded together to help one another. See, the people that had lost their houses, they used to take them in and look after them, you know. Because, let's face it, there wasn't a lot of money about them days, were there?
However, while some people bonded together, this period also saw widespread looting, greater ethnic and class tensions, and increased anger with the government over the shortage of effective air raid shelters. To try and maximise the terror of the raids, the Luftwaffe started dropping incendiary bombs, which were designed to start raging fires.
I remember at Ace Common in Kent, and we were outside of Hill, and we were told not to fire at any approaching aircraft, you know, Germans. And we had a young lieutenant, what are they talking about? We fired 4 salvos and we fired into another shell that night. We had incendiaries all over camp. And we went outside our gun pit, I threw a sandbag on it, the sandbag blew up in the air. They were explosive incendiaries. First time they dropped them that night. So we had to have every gun site had to be warned and every services they could tell, you know, ARP and all that, about these incendiaries, because people used to, we heard that one was getting killed, he'd thrown a bucket of water over an incendiary. No, you can't do that with that stuff. And it blew back, and it burnt all his stomach here. Because it's like a phosphorus stuff, you know.
Did any bombs ever strike near your position?
Well, one or two dropped out, maybe. What was it? It was an Ace coming, and there was we had a radar out, and the two radar operators had just come out, and they really got craters landing come up the side of where they was. You know, it'd have killed them, like, because all splinters had went through radar. And then the night after, there was an outpost used to go up. Now they started dropping oil bombs, you know, and the driver got out, he went out to pay for the coal, and the oil bomb landed right on top of the bloody bus, you know. Of course, our lot was told cease fire right away, because if you got a bus about 100 yards away and you start firing with guns, these guys, England bloody bombers have got an idea where bloody guns are, they could come down and have a do at you know.
As the Blitz continued, the RAF put more night fighters into action to try and inflict heavier losses on the Luftwaffe.
There was a night fighter, and if there was a night fighter out, we only had a certain area to fire. We could fire with guns. Because night fighters were in that area, you know. And was it Manning? It might have been Manning, South African RS. He come through this barrage, and he should have been there. And he got 1 or 2 chunks out of his wings, you know. Of course, he'd gone down and played out with the anti-aircraft unit here, haven't we? And they told him, well, what was he doing up there? He says, oh, patrolling, says, your Jerry's were over the other side. He says, don't you ever read your orders? He says, what? He says, you weren't supposed to be in that area. It was an anti-aircraft area for box barrages, you know.
Well, when I was doing the training, I did bombing. I dropped smoke bombs. But what we did, they take off, and we do a zigzag course over the English, over the Irish Sea, and then we'd head for Derby, which was at the end of the Isle of Man, and we dropped some smoke bombs on the targets there, and then I can tell you something funny as well. Coming back, of course, we were up in the sky, and it was winter, and it was lovely and warm. We got the sun coming through the window, and I was half asleep there. And we knew exactly what course to set from there, but because we didn't always know the right wind, you see. and we were going quite happily, and suddenly the aircraft went all over the sky. And what had happened? Oh, before that had happened, they had a thing called the IFF. I don't know whether anybody's mentioned this to you. The Identification Friend of Foe. This was a device that the batteries and other things put up a signal. This IFF returned the signal to show you they were an RAF aeroplane. And this IFF had set on fire. So we switched it off, you see, so we didn't have an IFF. We were quite happily going through the cloud as some anti-aircraft fire at Liverpool shot at us. They said the Navy shot first and asked questions afterwards. Now, we tried to find out who'd shot at us, but we never did.
Our fighters, they got a beam, and so it told us, told our people that it was one of ours, you know, so the guns wouldn't fire. But we didn't have tattle for that, but our headquarters had it, you know. And they had this special code. Only thing we had, with Dolly Blues, we used to get recognition signals. So a plane used to come over, and they dropped some coloured flares, you know. But these flares, they altered day by day. Sometimes two and three times a day, because they're the on paper, you know, in the command post. And I always remember he was a fighter pilot. One of our captains was a fighter pilot end of 1418 war. And he says, oh, hey, what's this fella doing here? So, you know, and he's talking to one of right finders. I don't predict it at that. He said, he's fifth time. Oh, this is an old German trick. You know, he says, we're going to surprise this fella. So he didn't fire, and he swung round and went, burning, like, you know, and he says, now, when you get that instrument and he comes dead on fire, did you? And they got him. And he was a captain, it was you know, a fighter pilot. I did what he liked doing, but you couldn't mix with officers, you know, when you're on the rank. We used to go in a pub there, and he used to come in. Give me your bloody army coat. Took his hat off, the army coat, fastened it up, you know. And he used to come and play darts with us. You know, lads, right? Said, I enjoy this one of them stuck up buggers in that bloody got messes.
So you don't think any of your shots ever shot down any enemy planes then?
Well, I'm only going by hearsay. They told us we got 17 probables. You know, we've been awarded 17 probables. Mm-hmm. Now, I think how they've got these figures of these probables is we used to put a lot of box barrages up. Mm-hmm. You know, as I said, dozens and dozens of guns all firing into one square. You know, and one of our officers was on about it. He says when he was abroad, he said we got kind of about 17 probables. He said, where do you get probables from? We don't know. Now, when we was in London, when we fired, we had a big white flash. You may have seen them on pictures. Now, when we went abroad, when we fired it dark, there was just a few sparks come out at the end. See, we had flashes code out abroad, but in England, the flash was there for public morale. That's what you just said. That's what it was. That's all it was for.
The Blitz finally ended in May 1941, when most German aircraft were transferred to Eastern Europe for the invasion of Russia. By then, around 40,000 civilians had been killed by bombing, and another 20,000 would die in raids later in the war. But Hitler's plan had failed. The British people had not surrendered, and more importantly, they had not come over to Germany's side.
Even the Home Guard, they did bloody well. They all did well what they'd done. But, you know, what with the bombing and all that, and all that, everybody did marvellous. The Battle of Britain and all that. Fantastic.
What do you think's the biggest misconception about the war today? So what people often get wrong when they think about the war?
Funny enough, I was asked that question about with Hans von Luck, Oberst Hans von Luck, and we were sitting talking, and I said to him, what do you think would have happened if Lord Halifax's suggestion that we made peace with Germany and actually joined them against the Bolsheviks? He said we'd have won the war. We'd have won it. If we had had your Air Force, your heavy bombers, your infantry and your Navy, the war would have been won long since. Simple as that. He said, now I want to say something to you. If you got 100 Germans and Englishmen, lined them all up in the same uniform, and without hearing them speak, distinguish one from the other, you couldn't. Because they're very much alike. You tell a Spaniard, you can tell a Frenchman, you can tell any of the Mediterranean type Italians, but you won't tell an Englishman from a German, all dressed the same, not unless they speak. And he's right, very much right, because he said, originally we all came from the same race. He said, we're all Anglo-Saxons, all of us. And when you look back in history, he was probably speaking the truth, because he spoke perfect English, didn't he? You know, you couldn't have told him that he was German. But he was a very able soldier, very, very able soldier.
As the damage to Britain's industry was repaired and the war effort continued, Churchill made the following announcement about how Germany would be dealt with. Hitler and his Nazi gang have sown the wind. Let them reap the whirlwind.